Hello, my name is Dave Toohey. I am a vice president with Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and I am responsible for the GreenLake organization for North America. And I'm really delighted to be here at the PDS vConnect meeting. And hopefully you guys are having a great session, learning a lot, and hopefully having a little fun. I've been asked to share some slides with you, and don't worry, there's only 10. But I was asked to help discuss and describe what we're seeing in terms of trends and directions in the industry right now, and how customers are, figuring out how to navigate through the new normal that exists today. And specifically, how is the HPE GreenLake platform helping customers with this navigation? Let's begin with, a look at the macro trends and what is the new normal, right? So you're seeing more and more customers are, they're operating in this multi-cloud environment, and a lot of the reasons. In fact, I had a meeting with a client this morning where we talked about exactly that, where part of their demand is shrinking rapidly, and other parts, like this happened to be a hospital system, their telemedicine unit and telemetry around that was just skyrocketing in usage, and there were obviously different patient patterns, and so their analytics engine and AI was ramping up as well. So they needed the ability to move more quickly, and they needed the ability to scale on demand as needed to support these new workloads, which frankly they had never planned for. And so a lot of organizations turn to the cloud for this kind of thing, but that begs the question, what is the cloud, right? And the reality is that the cloud isn't a destination, it's an experience. And that experience is things like elasticity, it's things like the ability to rapidly provision, it's the ability to pay for what you actually use. And frankly, I talked about HPE Greenlake. That's what Greenlake is. Greenlake delivers that experience to your on-prem infrastructure. And I'll get into some definitions in a minute so you have a little bit clearer picture of exactly what it is. But at a macro trend level, all these workloads are sprouting up that require information technology to drive them. And both budget constraints as well as supply chain and provisioning timelines and procurement timelines are all challenges that customers are kind of needing to navigate. We're also seeing at a macro level pretty dramatic reduction in the number of data centers. Customers are divesting from the data center business, and in many cases from the infrastructure management business. More on that in a minute. With COVID, cash is king, and customers are telling us again and again and again, hey, look, I am, in a cash crunch. I can't spend the cash, and so it's really not a capex opex discussion anymore. It's more of a, look, we don't want the cash to leave our treasury right now. We're trying to preserve it. How can HPE and PDS help? And then finally, so many customers over the course of the last 3-4 years, had this concept of a, cloud first initiative. And frankly, the easy stuff to move was harder than people thought. The cost, overruns were significant. And the harder stuff, was really, really hard, or maybe not even possible. So where we sit today is 70% of the applications and data still remain on-prem in our customers' data centers. And they haven't had the ability to deliver a cloud-like experience, and that's where GreenLake comes in. So pretty much everybody has a hybrid environment. And the other implication of the hybrid environment for our customers is, you've actually increased operational complexity, because the on-prem stuff kind of operates the way it usually has historically and traditionally, but the off-prem stuff is a different animal, and learning, how to operate in that environment and what skill sets are required and how to recruit and retain, people who can operate seamlessly in that environment. That's all tricky, right? And so most customers have 2 completely, or even 3 or 4 completely different operational models. So, how do you smooth that out and present to your end user customers, whoever they are, internal or external, a seamless experience, right? So, and then bottom line, security, obviously, on the bottom right there, right? That's a board level issue. And frankly, in these COVID times, we're seeing cyber attacks increasing, not decreasing. So those are some of the big trends. But I promised I would share some definition. Actually, let me skip to this one around what is GreenLake and why is it so important right now. So what GreenLake is, it's the most advanced consumption method for IT. It provides a cloud-like experience with on-prem infrastructure. So essentially, it's delivered as a service, and this is not some tricked-up lease with instant capacity on-demand models from 20, 25 years ago. This is an actual service contract, right? That our customers sign, and with that contract, right, they get access to run that infrastructure on-prem, which comes with its own set of advantages, right? Things like it solves for problems like latency, regulatory compliance, data sovereignty, and so forth. And not to mention, a lot of customers are much more comfortable having that infrastructure inside their firewall. So for all of those reasons, it makes sense to kind of keep some of that infrastructure on-prem, but deliver it as a service. Second thing, the metering technology, upper left here. We have the most sophisticated metering capabilities anywhere, and what that provides for our customers is the ability for them to become an internal service provider, to see exactly who's using what and what their trends are, because the metering also includes an AI engine that projects and predicts future usage patterns. What that enables us to do, right, is to bottom right, align your capacity requirements specifically to the needs of the workloads today, and stay ahead of the demand curve. So the implication of this is every single customer that I talk to has an issue around over provisioning, right? It's just simply the best way that IT has had historically to deal with risk, like risk of unexpected requirements hitting us, or risk of supply chain, or risk of long provisioning timelines, which on average are 123 days. Instead, what we do is we align to the needs of the workloads, eliminate that waste. And that waste, by the way, most customers on average over provision their compute by 58% and their storage by 57%. So pretty substantial over provisioning and waste. And that waste is the gift that keeps on giving, in the sense that our customers tell us the two most expensive things in their data center are, number one, people, and number two, power. And those environments need to be cared for in terms of firmware updates and patch management and so on. And they also consume power while they're sitting there, not to mention floor space, which can be very expensive. We can eliminate all that waste, right? And HPE deploys buffer capacity on top of what the workloads need today. And what that provides is that cloud-like agility. Customers tell us they're provisioning right out of those buffers real time, and they don't pay for any of it until they actually consume it. So it's extremely efficient use of that compute and storage capacity. So that's what GreenLake is. How does it actually work? If that dotted line represents how your usage patterns look, right? Historically, what you've done is you've looked at a 3-year horizon, or maybe 4, and you said, oh, I'm going to buy all this capacity, and all those dollars leave the treasury right now. And your ability to extract value from that purchase is completely up to you. Okay. Now, what you actually need is represented by, and are using, is represented by that green box. That's that 58 and 59% numbers that I talked about a minute ago on compute and storage. I'm sorry, 58 and 57. Excuse me. In any case, what happens is with GreenLake, we actually align to the needs of the workloads today, and then put that buffer that's represented there by the orange, and then a couple of months, 3, 6, it depends on your usage patterns, right? We deploy incremental technology ahead of the demand curve via a simple change order process. And that continues to grow over time. And customers are saving on average 30% by eliminating all of that waste that I talked about. Now, I said it's a cloud-like experience, and that's also showing up in how customers actually pay for it. When they know they're going to use the capacity, what happens is they actually pay for what they're actually using, and they reserve part of that, because there's 3 things that influence your unit cost. One is volume, obviously. The second thing is term, and the third thing is how much of that are you reserving up front. So if you know you're going to use 80% of that infrastructure, right out of the gate, then you would reserve 80% and drive down the unit cost. Okay, so that's how that works. And instead of 1 or 2 big stair-step buys over, a 3 or 4 year period, we're doing lots of smaller incremental, you know, change orders over time, right? And staying ahead of the demand curve. And every time we deploy a new change order, we also deploy additional buffer to help our customers. And what the customers tell us is that they are seeing the ability to deploy 65% more IT projects with GreenLake than before they had GreenLake. 65%. How do we do that? Right, and these are the important projects that I talked about on that very first slide. These business outcomes, and telemarketing or telecare for a hospital system, online in banking and VDI and claims processing and all kinds of applications that are getting pushed out to the edge, right? But these are the kinds of workloads that we're seeing, showing up in a GreenLake kind of a context, which is really powerful stuff. Okay. So I already mentioned the change order, and so what GreenLake does for our customers to navigate this new normal is it gives them a ton of flexibility. First of all, they save cash, right? Because they're actually only paying for what they actually use on a monthly bill, right? Paying in arrears, so there's no upfront capital purchase. In fact, for many customers, we're buying back old assets. We're using GreenLake as a lever to eliminate technology debt, right? Get them to current, improve their security and posture, security and compliance posture, I should say. And then at the end, right, they, we just refresh the technology, and the customer stays out of tech debt forever. So our customers are telling us that's really powerful. And then I already mentioned the internal service provider. We can show the customer exactly who's consuming what and what their consumption patterns look like, right? And so that helps our customers with a command and control level that they've never had before. Right, so all of this is helping IT organizations respond, crisply with a lot of agility to the new needs of the new normal. Okay, so how are customers using the HPE GreenLake? And we call this theme Cloud Everywhere. Right, your GreenLake Central is our customer experience portal, and with that customer experience portal called HPE GreenLake Central, our customers are able to manage their on-prem resources and their AWS or Azure or Google subscriptions. And so it becomes the bridge between those two operational models that I talked about before, kind of the traditional on-prem idle-based versus the cloud-native kind of stuff, and it pulls them together for one cloud experience, right? And then we also are helping our customers with GreenLake Central by optimizing that experience. And we do that with things like continuous cost monitoring and continuous compliance monitoring, which can be a gigantic help and time savings around IT audits. So our customers are telling us that's really powerful as well, right? And everything, again, delivered as a service. So our customers are getting out of the infrastructure management discussion and into, right, IT projects that are delivering business outcomes. And our customers tell us they absolutely love that, okay? So there we go. What's included with GreenLake? So all of the stuff on the left, build based on a per gigabyte, per server, per core, et cetera, on the right. So in addition to everything else that I talked about navigating things more seamlessly, more simply, much more rapidly, right, on-prem and off, what GreenLake is also doing for our customers is dramatically simplifying their procurement process, right? When they need new capacity, a simple one-page change order shows up, capacity ships, and that shrinks the timelines. So not only are we provisioning out of buffers, which provides that instant capacity availability, but we're staying ahead of the demand curve forever using that AI engine that I talked about. So customers get the GreenLake Central Customer Experience Portal. They get use of the hardware. We take care of installation, taxes, break fix. We have people who are helping our GreenLake clients understand their usage patterns and stay ahead of them. We're also, making sure the system is up and running at all times. We're doing performance updates. We're doing the firmware updates. We're doing the patch management, the memory management, the BIOS updates. So all of that infrastructure heavy lifting we take care of, freeing up people cycles for our customers as well. So you free up cash for more projects. You provision out of the buffers for real-time provisioning, and we free up humans to go actually deliver those projects. So money, people, and infrastructure all converging to drive an agile experience for our clients. And again, we just get rave reviews. In fact, when customers move into GreenLake, we have more than 1,000 customers who are work with us now in GreenLake contracts, and over $3 billion of assets under management on our customers' data center floors or in their colos. So really powerful stuff. And then what are some of the workloads that we're seeing that are being delivered as a service? Like these are, I'm calling it for fun the dirty dozen, but there's others. But what's common about most of these is they're either high growth or high variability, and that's where GreenLake delivers the most bang for the buck in terms of dollar savings, right? The cash that doesn't leave the treasury. Because if your big data environment's growing very rapidly, or your AI engines are consuming, data at a hugely rapid pace, which happens with Splunk as an example, you're going to over provision your buys even more than that 58 or 57% that I noted earlier, right? For some customers, they're saying, I had one customer tell me that they, when they're doing their capacity planning cycles, historically, first they estimate what they think they need for all of their applications and workloads, then they double it, then they add 10% for risk, and then they add 5% for business continuity, then they buy. Tremendously wasteful, right? So these are just examples of some of those applications that the over provisioning goes even further north, and again that just increases waste, right? And guesswork from a capacity planning standpoint. With GreenLake, we eliminate all of that. The other one I want to note is containers. We're seeing more and more customers drive a container-based outcome, and it's super exciting because they're using this as a platform to drive their digital transformation initiatives, and containerize some of these legacy applications, and that builds portability into their environments. It also can increase performance and substantially drive down costs. So there's a lot of cost savings that we can bring to the party to help customers preserve cash. Okay. And then I'm going to close with two slides. These are both customer slides. So the first one here was delivered by the CIO and the CFO of one of our clients that they delivered to their board of directors. And they were kind enough to share this with me. So you can see what their thought process was: time to value, cash flow advantages, the ability to get from fixed and peanut butter to variable. The metering gives them the ability to do, that internal service provider context that I talked about, and get to zero-based budgeting for the first time. And they told us that profitability verification was what the board honed in on the most, because for the first time in their company's history, before they had peanut buttered IT costs, now, their products, which were underpinned by technology, they could see what each product was consuming from a technology standpoint, and that led them to a place where they could make more strategic decisions in the future that they just simply didn't have the data to do before. So pretty neat. And then the bottom are all the technology advantages that they noted, right? So, obviously they started with the business outcomes, but the technology advantages of simplification, we do the asset management, the tech refresh to eliminate tech debt, the new tech infusion, et cetera, the reduced risk and vulnerability, all of those things. So this GreenLake, you can actually think of as a springboard for driving a digital transformation agenda, for accelerating it, simplifying it, de-risking it, and ultimately funding it. Okay, and here's another one. This was a digital transformation discussion we had with an actual client just a couple weeks ago. And their current state was they had a bunch of data centers they were consolidating. They had a bunch of compute. This is not a huge client, as you could see. But they were growing, and they were doing some merger and acquisition and so on. The end state, we have an infrastructure model, right, in terms of the architecture. But bottom line, everything gets modernized, everything gets consolidated, everything's delivered as a service, and all of those other benefits that I talked about. And then the safe pair of hands to help them through that migration, and substantially mitigate and eliminate risk through the course of the life cycle of this migration. So, this is more of the technology double click of how customers are looking at leveraging, GreenLake and the rest of HPE's, substantial assets. But I did want to close with that. So, at the end of the day, I think I summarized it already, right? GreenLake provides that cloud-like experience on premise, and it helps our customers navigate through these, the new normal of these uncertain times by helping them preserve cash, accelerate outcomes, substantially reduce physical and other risk in the environment, and like eliminate tech debt all at the same time. So tremendously powerful.